button. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And I'm going to start the slideshow from the beginning. Okay. So let me know if you could, one of you guys could unmute just to let me know that you guys could see this.
I see it.
You see it? Okay, good.
Yeah, I could see it. And I want to let you know, Nicole is also with me. She signed up, but we're watching together.
Oh, great. Well, welcome, Nicole. Awesome. All right. So we are going to get started here. So this is obviously about gratitude, because when I say obviously, it's because that's what you signed up for, because you are part of the NJ New York PA Personal Development Group. So thank you for being a member. And we are going to talk about gratitude, which is really the antidote for unrealistic expectations. Okay. At the end of this presentation, it'll all make sense to you. I created a course called Get Real Dion Heal, where there's 3 negative behavioral patterns that affect most of us that we don't even realize that we're doing sometimes, because subconsciously we store these beliefs such as I'm not good enough, what's wrong with me, I did something wrong, and they're tied to these 3 negative behavioral patterns that are called self-centered fear, unrealistic expectations, and perfectionism. And the antidote, like I said earlier, to unrealistic expectations is gratitude. The negative behavioral pattern, self-centered fear, either you're afraid you're going to lose what you have, or you're not going to get what you want or need. You could be caught in both polarities, one or the other. And the antidote to that is learning to live in the moment. And then we have the dreaded perfectionism, which is very difficult, because most people who are perfectionists are very, very difficult, very hard on themselves, I should say. And the antidote for that is learning to love yourself. Okay. But here we're here to talk about gratitude. So let's get started. So what is gratitude? So gratitude is the quality of being thankful and the readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. Now, everybody has their own definition of gratitude. For me, gratitude is it is an intrinsic motivational factor for me, meaning that when I look at gratitude, I'm not just grateful for having a roof over my head or food to eat or a job or health insurance. Gratitude to me is also an intrinsic thing, like what lights me up, the intrinsic motivation. What qualities do I have that I'm grateful for, such as I do love myself. I'm a kind, generous person. I am courteous. I'm tolerant, patient. So these are things that I want you to think about throughout the presentation and after the presentation, to help you understand that when, as life will give us some heartache and the shit hits the fan, of course, we want to use gratitude to try to help us deal with the certain situation. However, we don't want to use gratitude in a way that is the opposite, which is ingratitude, which is covering up an emotion, and we're just stuffing it using ingratitude to make ourselves feel better and never really dealing with the actual issue that we're facing. So I just wanted to throw that out, and it'll probably be a reoccurring thing that I'll talk about as I go through this presentation, okay? So Ralph Waldo Emerson had a very good quote when it comes to gratitude. Whoops, sorry, I gotta go back. Whoops, hit the wrong button. So cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. I like that quote. So there's a lot in there to process, and I'll leave that to you to process, and you could go back and watch the video and think about that. And I hope that Ralph Waldo Emerson little quote here resonates with you. Let's move on. Okay. So your brain on gratitude. Okay. So in recent gratitude research study, it was found that all anxious and depressed subjects who participated in a gratitude letter writing experiment showed significant behavioral changes. So, you know, gratitude you could look as like an adjective. It's an action word. It's something that you have to do in order to in this particular slide they're referring to a gratitude letter. Then we'll talk about some tools that you could do. You could have a gratitude jar, you could have a gratitude journal. But what they found in using MRI scans, fMRI scans, it was determined that not only was there an increase in neural modulation brought about by changes in the medial prefrontal cortex, which this is your prefrontal cortex, and you have what's called the limbic system as well, which is your fight, flight, and freeze. Okay. Usually when we're thinking more, when we're in reaction mode, we're in our limbic system. And we really want to try to focus on being in, we're going to be in both, but we want to be more in our prefrontal cortex, which is our rational thinking system. So what they determined is that people were better able to manage negative emotions like guilt and were more willing to be helpful, empathetic, and kind when they thought about or just really were in a gratitude frame of mind. Okay. Which leads me to the three types of gratitude. Okay. There's a trait, a mood, and an emotion. So a trait is one's overall tendency to have a grateful disposition. You may know some people in your life who are just like always happy go lucky people. Well, that's a trait that they have, that they're happy go lucky people and they have a grateful disposition. Okay. Just imagine what the world would be like if we all had this trait. It was the most powerful trait. Like gratitude was the most powerful trait instead of like, divisiveness and hate and all that other garbage that we deal with in this world, right? Gratitude is also a mood where you could have daily fluctuations in overall gratitude, okay? And then there's the emotion, which is more of a temporary feeling of gratitude that one may feel after receiving a gift. So you could be in all three of these. You could be one in at certain times. Obviously, if somebody like gave, you probably could think of a time where maybe like around the holidays, if you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah, and you were given a gift, you might feel that emotion of like, oh, thank you so much for giving me that gift, and you feel gratitude for that. Or maybe a mood where you have daily fluctuations in overall gratitude. Where I don't know, maybe at your job, things are going really well and you're just like so grateful that, things are going well throughout your day. And then, a trait could be, your trait is your overall grateful. You have an overall grateful disposition where you're just walking around all day, walking on sunshine. I think the trait is the hardest one. I don't think people are born into this. I mean, you may be born into this world grateful, but somehow, as we go along, our parents kind of screw us up, and also environmental factors. But that's in the self-centered fear, unrealistic expectations, and perfectionism modules that in my Get Real Deal and Heal course, where I talk about that. So what are some emotions that are associated with being grateful? It could be unpretentious, loving, prosperous, lighthearted, reassured, happy, worthy, tranquil, generous, and exhilarated. So I want to, you have to ask yourself, how often am I in one of these or a combination of these emotions throughout the day? How do I wake up grateful, or am I going through my day struggling? Am I surviving, or am I thriving? Most people who are thriving are living day to day in gratitude. They wake up feeling grateful and they go to bed thinking about some of the things that they were grateful for that happened throughout their day. But this takes a lot of work to get to this particular place to do that. You have to really, if you're dealing with trauma, some unresolved issues, it's very difficult to be grateful in your life when you have something that is holding you down and making you feel stuck. So, I'm always telling people that if you have something that is, that happened to you either you have PTSD from a traumatic event, you have to seek help and resolve that trauma. Not saying that the trauma will ever go away, right? We have to be realistic that we have this inner child, that there's a wound there, and things in life could trigger that particular wound that you may have. But once you've learned the tools and skills in order to recognize and be able to question your thoughts in real time, what's the evidence for, what's the evidence against, and become your own CBT therapist, and use this as a tool, right, to help you bounce back from adversity quicker, your life seems to be a lot easier. I like to say, instead of just surviving, you're actually thriving, because you're taking action. You have a tool chest of things that you could do, such as meditation, such as being able to communicate properly your feelings without worrying about what other people think of you. You know, that goes into really like when you truly love yourself and you could be your true authentic self, and which means that you could be 100% vulnerable because you're not worried about what other people think of you, or then you could live in a state of gratitude and grace and be grateful that you actually are this way. Like, remember I had mentioned earlier about the intrinsic motivation, not so much the extrinsic motivation, which we get temporary gratitude from, like gifts and things like that. You want to build your intrinsic motivation muscle. Okay. So what are some of the scientific proven benefits of gratitude that will motivate you to give thanks year round? Well, gratitude opens the door to more relationships. You know, you could probably notice yourself or situations where you really were feeling like really happy. You've surrendered to like whatever is, you're living in the moment, and you're just walking around happy. Like we all have, you know, we're these bioelectrical beings. We have, you know, we're you know, people, if you believe in spirituality and that you have a soul, that we have electricity, we do have electricity in our body. Some people will say that's your soul. Other people will, you know, have their own ideas of what it's all about. I always like to think that, you know, we are these electrical energetic beings, because what happens when people have heart attacks? What do they use to get our hearts going again? If they can, they hit us with the paddles, right? With electricity. So we have a bundle branch system that basically, keeps our hearts beating, right? So we have this energy, and you could tell when you're feeling like really grateful and you're walking around, like people will smile at you. You almost give off a radiance, and you could also feel it from other people as well. Maybe you're not feeling so good, but somebody will smile at you, and that makes you smile, right? So gratitude opens the door to more relationships. People who are grateful sleep better because they're not worrying about their issues, right? Gratitude improves your self-esteem. It increases your mental strength. It enhances empathy and reduces aggression. It also improves psychological health. And then overall, it just improves physical health. Okay, so there's many benefits for really trying to be grateful for the things that make you who you are and the things that you have in your life. Okay. So when gratitude fails, so this is what I was talking about earlier about ingratitude. Okay. So as easy as gratitude is to put into practice, there is one thing that could get in the way of it, and that's ingratitude. So what is the characteristics of ingratitude? You could have an excessive sense of self-importance, right? Which kind of ties into number two, which is kind of like an arrogant attitude. Three, using it to cover up hurt feelings. I had mentioned this earlier, right? You definitely don't want to cover up and stuff your feelings, things that are actually happening to you or you're feeling, right? But you can use gratitude to help you cope with the situation, to make the pain of it maybe less hurtful, but you still need to address it, right? An unquenchable need for admiration and approval. That's like a self-esteem thing where you're kind of like, really being somebody else, like pretending that you might be more important than you really are. Also, a sense of entitlement. Okay. Get help. And this is what I stressed earlier. If you've experienced a truly traumatic experience, sometimes gratitude isn't enough to pull you out of your emotions that can lead to depression. You may need help from a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, basically to get you if you need medicine to help you get back on track chemically. There is no shame in that. Okay. I'm a holistic wellness coach. Obviously, I try not to emphasize medicine as much, but I do understand the importance of it. If somebody was like sexually abused and they never dealt with that particular trauma, talking about it and opening up that wound may do more damage if you don't have maybe something to help you calm you down. And sometimes medicine is the best way to do that temporarily to help you. And also breathing exercises and things of that nature. But there's no shame in that. Okay. And I want people to really understand that if you're suffering, you need to go get help. Okay. Gratitude is a strength. So, research findings on the benefits of the strength of gratitude found gratitude is one of the strengths most connected to the experience of a meaningful life. Okay. And also finding your passion or your purpose in life. Okay. The strength of gratitude has religious or spiritual benefits as well, such as a feeling of interconnectedness with life, a general sense of responsibility towards others, and a reduced emphasis on material goods. And I could say that I'm at a point, I'm 53 years old. I'm at a point in my life where I've done so much work that that's where I am in my life. Like, I'm not a materialistic person. I do like nice things and I do buy them and I do enjoy certain things. For me, I'm at a point in my life where, I'm doing this. I'm actually trying to share some of the things I learned that I feel I have a responsibility towards others in order to help them learn to live a flourishing life. And, I just have an interconnectedness with life. Like, I'm a spiritual person and I believe in the universe. I believe there's a balance of, how the trees breathe. They breathe out oxygen, produce oxygen for us, and we breathe out carbon dioxide and produce that for them so they could breathe. I just feel like there's a balance of that, and I feel connected to something greater than myself, which keeps me grounded and grateful, which builds like the intrinsic motivation for me. Because when I go out and from a big thing for me that gets me going, to help with gratitude is I like to hike. So like now the summer is coming, everything is blooming. My allergies are kicking my ass, but thank God for allergy pills. I'm grateful for that. But I see like that connectedness makes me feel very grateful to be alive. Which, if you think about it, in the vastness of this universe, for us to be living in this particular moment is probably 1 in a trillion million chances that here we are and experiencing this particular life. So, when you learn to really love yourself and release yourself from trauma, and be able to learn tools that will help you flourish, such as, learning what the difference is between the growth versus a fixed mindset. You're building your self-regulation muscle, learning about real-time resilience skills, learning how to become your own CBT therapist to question your thoughts in real time, writing your own gratitude list, writing your own 9 ingredients of love, what love means for you. And most importantly, becoming vulnerable, right? Not worried about what other people really care about you. And probably one of the most important things is understanding that fear of the unknown is a myth, and you flip the fear of the unknown to, go for what you're passionate for in life and replace fear of the unknown with curiosity. because you don't have a fear of failure anymore. And you're living the life that you basically want to create and the world that you want to create, instead of being influenced by society's so-called stereotypical things that they say you should do, which is get in a relationship, get married, get a career, find out where you live, or find a place to live, and all those different things. We tend to get caught up in that, and we really shouldn't. We need to find what our purpose is in life and how we could use that purpose to try to help the world become a better place. Okay. And that's part of gratitude. So techniques to use to help bring gratitude into your life. So you could create and read your gratitude list or journal. That's something you could do, whether you like to write. You could type some things on your phone. You can create a gratitude jar and make deposits and withdrawals daily, meaning you could have like a fish bowl when you could do little scraps of paper, and you could write a bunch of things you're grateful for and throw that in. And so when you wake up in the morning, you pick something up, you read it. This is what I'm grateful for. You stir it up before you go to bed. What were you grateful for? Okay. Remember the bad and where you came from. Sometimes they say like, our past is like our greatest enemy. I don't believe that. I believe I've experienced a lot of abandonment and physical abuse and things that have happened in my life. And I'm kind of grateful that I went through that, because I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't have those experiences. So, and it reminds me of, when I do have adversity in my life, just like everybody does, and we have to deal with that adversity, I could look back and see some of the things that I struggled with and realize that if I got through some of those things that were harder than what I'm going through right now, it forces me to be grateful. Like, wow, I'm so grateful that I have the tools that I could deal with this situation and know that I'll get through it with flying colors. You can learn to meditate, take 5 minutes to quiet your mind to bring you back to the moment, which is breathing. We're going to go over that. You could learn to practice the pause. How many of us take time to practice the pause? Even before we speak, when we're in an argument, maybe with our significant other or with our children, how many times do we just say, stop, practice the pause, take a breath, and just say, okay, what do I need to do here? What should I really be saying here? Of course, that's a different topic I'm talking about, but here is see the beauty in nature, practice the pause. That's what I like to do, is to go in nature. And most importantly, help others who are less fortunate. Sometimes we become selfish and caught up in our own shit. And in order for us to get out of our shit, sometimes we have to become selfless. Okay. And that will be helping others, doing volunteer work, doing things that will get us out of our misfortune. And one of the tools that I'll also use is if when I'm going through a certain situation, it's almost I'm talking to me. Like when you hear that voice in your head, that's called metacognition. You're talking to yourself. But sometimes I will use the tool, like if a friend was going through an unfortunate situation and they came to you and they explained that unfortunate situation, what would they say to you to help you? Or what would you say to them? I'm sorry. What would you say to them to help them deal with that particular situation? So maybe you could use that tool as if you're talking to yourself, but it's basically you talking to a friend and then you take your own advice. It's very hard for us to take our own advice sometimes, because we get caught up in our ego instead of really listening to our true authentic selves, which we like to call like our gut feeling. Okay. So making a gratitude list, why you need one. So we talked about this earlier about the brain, but numerous studies on the benefits of gratitude practice have shown that keeping a gratitude list can increase our long-term happiness more than 10%. A 2005 study also showed that keeping a gratitude list decreased depression by more than 30% for the duration of that study. I'm sure that now if I looked up some type of study and upgraded the slide, it's probably even more higher than that. It's probably higher than that. So how do I create a list? I talked about it a little earlier. And I also talked about pick things, realistic things you're thankful for, and keep it simple, like some intrinsic and also some extrinsic things, like I'm resilient, I'm a loving person, I have food to eat, I have clean water, I have good health, I have clothes to wear. Okay. So this is a breathing exercise that you could do like when you're feeling stressed, that you could do in conjunction with gratitude. Okay. It's called the 3 by 6 second nostril breathing technique in meditation. And you could do this for 5 minutes or as long as you need. So what you do is you close your eyes, you begin breathing in and out through your nostrils only. As you breathe in, you count to 3, then hold your breath for 2 seconds. Breathe out for a count of 6 seconds and hold your breath for 2 seconds. So when you breathe out, it's almost like, I'll kind of do it for you. You breathe in through your nose, you hold it, and you breathe out through your mouth. Okay. And you could do a mantra if you want. If you know your brain is always going to be like spewing these thoughts, and you could kind of just picture maybe like clouds going by and the thoughts going into the cloud and just floating by. And you could also use the count, like it's hard to think. You really can't be thinking two things at the same time. So you could be counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or you could switch to a mantra. Like one of the mantras that I use, since I'm a spiritual person, is Soham Nama while breathing, which means I am one with the universe. Now, my breathing exercise has this is for somebody who's a beginner. And as you get better at this, my breathing is an 8 by 8 by 8 exercise. And I only do it for 10 times because I don't need to do it like 30 minutes. Some people, like you see meditation people will say, oh, do 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night. You need to find what works for you. And for what works for me is doing the 8 by 8 by 8 breathing exercise, which means that I'm breathing in for the count to 8. I am holding it for the count of 8, and then I'm breathing out my mouth like I showed you for the count of 8 with my tongue positioned at the roof of my mouth. And I just count, and I just do that 10 times. And what it does is, what this is doing when you are charged up, okay, and I talk about this in my course, is that you have an autonomic nervous system. And I talked about it a little bit early when I first started the presentation about your brain physiology, where you have your prefrontal cortex, which is your rational thinking system, and you have your limbic system, which is your fight, flight, and freeze. So within your autonomic nervous system, you have what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest stage. And you have your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight, flight, and freeze. So when you're agitated or you're scared or you're angry or whatever, you feel maybe your palms start to sweat, you feel the tightness like in your back, you feel anxious, your heart starts to beat very quickly, you're in your sympathetic nervous state, which is normal. It's a normal reaction for certain things that happen in our lives that could cause us to be fearful, right? If somebody was pulling a gun on you or you're being chased by a tiger, you got to be in sympathetic nervous state because you got to protect yourself. But in reality, tigers aren't chasing us and we're not cavemen anymore. So we need to learn these tools in order to switch from our sympathetic nervous state back to our parasympathetic nervous state as quickly as possible, because it takes 90 seconds for the biochemical reaction of an emotion to be felt. 90 seconds. So if we could somehow interrupt that and just practice the pause, right? Tell yourself, practice the pause, and be able to, do these breathing exercises while in conjunction, maybe thinking, oh, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I know these breathing exercises. It could bring you back into parasympathetic nervous state. Okay. So you really want to try and increase your level of consciousness. And this is just a little added slide that I added in here because I think it's important if you want to live a flourishing life. These are some things that you could do, some tips that you could do. Okay. So allow yourself to experience your feelings rather than block them out. Meditation and prayer is a helpful way to do this. You experience your thoughts and feelings, learn from them, and let them go. Let go of framing your idea of what should be and genuinely accept what is. Okay. It's very difficult for us sometimes because we're great storytellers, right? That's why in my course, Get Real, Deal, and Heal, I teach you how to become your own CBT therapist, where you find the evidence for, the evidence against, like a thought that you have that's kind of like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. It's like, what's the proof that you're going to lose your job? It's just a rumor. And then you spiral down the rabbit hole, and it's very difficult for you to be have gratitude. And when you're spiraling down the rabbit hole because you just made something up, it's called the thinking trap, right? And then it causes you to start to worry. And then you start to have second degree worries. You worry about the worry, then you start ruminating on that, and then you start catastrophizing, and then you're spiraling down the rabbit hole. Okay. So, you need to learn to let go and generally accept what is and try to live in the moment and look at things truly the way they are, with facts and meaning, by taking your brain and the situation to court. Just like a court of law, you need to take it to court. Identify the meaningless things to which you've assigned meaning. Happiness and security can never be experienced when dependent on the external. They could only be achieved internally. Okay. So that's what I was referring to when I was talking about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. We want to build that intrinsic motivation muscle and find things that make us happy, because the external things sometimes disappear, right? They don't stay around. And we got to learn to, if we are by ourselves, especially if we're in a relationship and that relationship ends, of course, you have to mourn the relationship. But some people will just hop right back into another relationship because they can't be by themselves, because they've never built up that intrinsic motivational muscle. Okay. Begin trusting your inner voice. If you feel prompting to bring an umbrella with you, even when the weather report says the contrary, bring it. This is an example of like when you're brushing your teeth, right? And it's a rainy day and you say, oh, I'm going to bring the umbrella. And then you say no. Like, your gut is always right. You need to trust your gut. Okay. I've done this many times, and I really just try to trust my gut and, not allow my ego to get in the way. Whoops, sorry. Explore the world, experience new cultures, and have your paradigm shifted and reframed. Fall in love with learning. Okay. There's many podcasts that I listen to learn about different things. Some people they're readers. They like to read books. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to listen to books now. There's two podcasts that I really enjoy. One is The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. He has a lot of influencers and people who talk about a lot of psychological, emotional, spiritual, a lot of different things about your, guests that talk about your brain, talk about your gut health, talk about business and entrepreneurship, just a lot of great education. And then there's another one his gentleman's name is Ed Milet. Okay. So you might want to put them in the chat after I'm done here. You also want to question your own intentions and motivations. Okay. You want to be humble about your own humanity. You want to act with love and become aware when you are not. Always, 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 always get intensive physical stimulation. Exercise, exercise, exercise. It's a proven fact that if you're feeling depressed, that exercise or anxious, exercise is the best thing for you. So you need to get out there and do some exercise. Take risks and responsibility for your life. Set high standards for yourself. And lastly, earn good friends and commit yourself to a partner. All these things are possible. All these things you could achieve and it makes it a lot easier when you're living in a grateful state of mind. Okay. So I talked about before that I created a course called Get Real, Deal, and Heal, and it's modern after my. This course helps you understand your emotional triggers and stuff. It's an online coaching program. You basically go at your own pace. This is wrong. There isn't one free 60-minute call with me at the end of each module. Actually, it's an add-on, so I need to fix that. But there is a free Facebook group exclusive to Get Real, Deal, and Heal members where you get transformational support, guidance, and community. And this is what the course actually is. Okay. So basically, and this, I just show this because I'm not saying that you should buy this. I'm not selling it. I'm actually just making you aware of it because I think it's a good tool for you if you are like living in a state of survival and you're not thriving, because this is all based on positive psychology. Most people don't understand what positive psychology is. It's the study of human flourishing. And there's things in this course, like I mentioned earlier, like real-time resilience skills, growth versus fixed mindset, a lot of stuff that people never knew existed or never taught. And I think if we would have learned these things maybe in our 20s, some of us probably, I know I would have made much different decisions when I turned 30, which I believe are the most important decision-making years of your life. Okay. So module 1 is self-centered fear. I talked about that, which, the antidote for self-centered fear is learning to love yourself. We talked about unrealistic expectations, which the antidote is gratitude, because it's very hard to have unrealistic expectations when you understand what gratitude is. And perfectionism is, when we place a lot of perfectionism on ourselves and we're very hard on ourselves and other people, it's because we really haven't learned to love ourselves. Okay. And that's the antidote to that. And there's a transformational toolkit, and there's also coaching as well. So this is kind of the breakdown of what each thing is and what it costs. And this is the total price if you add all these things up. And I sell it for $55.55, which is kind of a spiritual number, like on self-development. So that's that. So I want to thank you for listening. This is my website. It's holisticwellcare.coach. And I love this quote: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. So why not take action? If you basically are, again, struggling with life and you feel like you're just surviving, well, maybe it's time to do something to improve your life. And it doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, 80, 25, it doesn't matter. Change can happen at any age. It's all dependent upon you and how you want to live your life. Do you want to survive or do you want to thrive? Okay. So I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to basically allow people to talk. If you want to share or talk about gratitude, go ahead.
Dan, that was incredible. A lot of good messages and reminders of things that we thought we knew, but it's good to see again. And, just the way you deliver it from the heart, we appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Troy. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything that stood out for you that resonated with you that you didn't know prior to the call?
It's good to pause because you get so busy in life, and these are things that should be obvious, but they're not. And to spend time with you, go over them, and then we were talking here about, hey, let's do this or let's do that. Gratitude log. Yeah, the gratitude log, for example,
Mhm.
is incredible. Doing that with a partner or by yourself, whatever. That's one that we talked about. We're going to start doing right away.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Anyone else?
Hi, Dan.
Hey, Desiree, how you doing?
So, yeah, I listening to you. I try to practice most of the things that you said, gratitude and kind of thrive. However, at 44 years old, I'm doing nothing but surviving. I often feel like I am in an ocean and the tidal wave and the current keep getting me as soon as I get my head above the water.
Mm.
And I can't seem to get to shore. No matter what I do, no matter how I meditate, how I try to just be grateful for what I do have. I don't really worry about what I don't have because I always seem to get what is needed in life. I am very spiritual. I believe in universal law, like you said, and what is meant to me will always be to me. But saying that, I also feel like what's meant for me is what's been going on for me. I'm doing something wrong because it's been hard. It has not been easy,
Mm.
and I don't know how to get out of my own way sometimes.
Mm.
I don't.
Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, have you ever went and talked to a therapist or somebody to see what possibly could be the block?
Well, I just started with a therapist. My issue is being committal because I always miss my appointment, and it's not on purpose. It's just I'm lazy, I sleep late, and well, that's on purpose, I guess, right? And
Can you
but
speak a little louder, Desiree? It sounds like you're underwater a little bit.
yeah, wait, hold on 1 second. I think that's something. See, I told you I was underwater. Hold on a second. Let me get you off my phone. Okay, is that better?
Much better.
Oh,
100%.
wait, now I can't hear you though for some reason.
You can't hear me?
Oh, wait. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, so I just started with a therapist. My physician I'm on an antidepressant, which I have been in the past, and then an anxiety medicine. I got myself off of it for a while and I was doing great. And then I started feeling crappy again. And I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have stopped my medicine because obviously it worked for a reason. I'm a single mother with 4 teenage kids.
It's a
And
lot.
it's
a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. And they're all girls and they all have a sassy attitude. And it just, I have a ex-husband that doesn't help. I'm a very toxic family that I don't speak to, any of them, just because I needed to be okay. I need to be healthy. And having all this toxic shit in my life was just drowning me more and more. But I'm starting to feel like I miss my family, right? But I'm not ready to bring them back in because I'm not okay. I feel like I love myself, but apparently I don't love myself enough. And I don't know how to get there. I don't know how. I'm having a hard time because I have to love everybody else. I worry about everybody else. And that's a deflection, that's me not taking care of myself because it's easier to delve into other people.
Yeah, that's
So,
difficult. So what I hear you saying is that, you have a toxic relationship with your family. You're not ready to have them back in your life, but you miss them, but you're really on a path to take care of yourself. You have 4 girls and they're sassy, which that's a lot. I mean, you're a single mom and your ex-husband sounds like he doesn't help as much. So, everything that you're experiencing, with anxiety is normal. I mean, I don't know what, situation you experienced as a child it sounds like you had a rough one
yeah, I
because
definitely have inner child issues,
right.
PTSD, all that stuff. And, that I'm definitely as an adult now being triggered because I think I see a lot of what I went through as a child, what's going on with my kids. And, that generational curse statement, you want to be able to change it and not be the same, but it's hard because we're very programmed people. So trying to unprogram yourself is even harder. So, but and I try to be grateful and say, okay, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. But when the bad things happen and it's happened constantly, or the drowning, right, so to speak, happens, it's like, the hell do I got to be grateful for? Because this keeps happening. How do you stay grateful and in that thought process when all of these other things keep happening? And I don't know.
No, I hear you. It's listen, it sounds like you're in a tough spot, but one thing that I think you can be grateful for is that you have the knowledge or the resilience to know that you do need help, and that you basically have taken steps to see a therapist and go back on the medication to help you get through whatever you're dealing with at the time, at this time. So, don't be so hard on yourself, you know, and try to practice some steps, maybe like breathing, some type of breathing meditation, like I had exercise that I had shown you. And,
Right.
we could talk about it more, like, on my website, if you go to holisticwellcare.coach, under the one-on-one coaching thing, I have a free 60-minute consultation. So if
Okay.
you wanted to take advantage of that and talk to me a little bit about, what what your past issues are, I could possibly help you a little bit and, maybe understand exactly what you need as far as therapy, because sometimes it's very difficult to get the right therapist. Okay.
Right.
So
You
you
have to
don't,
be a fit, which I have a
yeah.
problem with that. I gone through 3 of them already because I just feel like I don't like that therapist that's just saying, "Oh, well, why do you think you feel this way? And how could you help?" I need somebody to be like full force with me because
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like that with my kids. The kids had a therapist. One therapist came in my house. We had family therapy. I told this lady, I said, "Y'all, listen to me. You're gonna end up quitting your job after you leave my house because it's too much. It's very toxic and hostile between me and my kids, and it's hard." So sure enough, she did quit.
Right.
It
All right.
was
Well, let's, go. I'll put in I don't know if you could see the chat,
Yeah.
but I'll put my website in there,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
and you can, ping me, and basically you could take advantage of that free consultation.
Aw-
And I'll see what I could do to help you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed this meeting. It was very insightful for me.
No problem. Jazz, I saw you came late, so I don't know if you had an opportunity to see anything.
No, not really, but I wasn't able to join earlier, but is
That's
this
all
is
right.
this also recorded
It's
or
recorded, so
okay.
you will definitely get the playback for sure sometime
Okay.
tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else, Des, that we've had the other people drop off? We're almost at the 8 o'clock hour. Is there anything else that you guys want to share before we end the meeting? Or are we good to go?
No,
I
I
think,
think I'm good. I'm good. I will hit you up on the other way
yeah,
and we can talk further.
sounds good. All right. Well, listen, thank you for joining. And Desiree, I look forward to speaking to you, further, and hopefully I could help you or refer you to somebody who could really give you the help that you need. Okay. And if not, maybe I could help you, because I've been
Mhm.
through this before. So
Right.
we'll,
Awesome.
we'll, we'll talk about it. Okay.
All right. Thank
So,
you.
all right, Jazz, have a good night.
Okay. Bye. Good
The
night.
recording will be out tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.